Pattaya City Expats Club is a non-profit social organisation and our speakers are volunteers. The club as such assumes no responsibility or liability for the professional reputation of or the quality of services provided by the speaker today.
Woman and her journey and what we can learn for her, and thank so many people for coming and supporting Judith. Judith, come on up.
Thank you. Thank you.
There and there. That's forward, that's back. That's
Okay.
You can see it.
Oh, that's me on there. I can see it. Okay. Okay, great to be back here. Thank you. Thank you. This sentence might shock you. This is the month in which I was told, without treatment, I'd be dead. I hadn't realised I was that ill. And oh look, we spelt my name wrong. How many times have we looked at it? I saw it on the monitor down there. Anyway, Edmonds. Okay, I may have to look at my notes on my phone. I'm saving paper because I might forget what has happened to me this year. We started back in January. My journey. I went to see my new granddaughter who was a year old in Phuket. I'd only been there a couple of days and I knew I had some pains in my stomach, and on the Saturday night I could see blood in my urine and I thought, oh my God, something's wrong. Said to my son the next day, let's go to hospital. I had a bladder infection. Can happen to anyone. That was January. Then I became really ill in February. I'd gone back to Phuket, and the pain in my stomach and my back was unbelievably bad, and I've suffered with back problems for many years. That's another story. I'm not going into any of that. I could not walk without the aid of a walking stick. The pain got worse and worse. My son had to take me to the hospital 4 times in 3 weeks. I wasn't a happy bunny. I had an endoscopy and a colonoscopy. The colonoscopy was added because of the history of bowel cancer from my mother. There was also a history of esophageal cancer from my father, and I had these terrible pains in the stomach and the back that were getting worse, terrible burping. Fortunately, the wind was only coming up, it wasn't going down. So if I burp in the middle of all this, it's something that they can't cure, they don't know what's causing it. Pain was unbelievable. The colonoscopy was completely clear. The other thing, the endoscopy, right, okay, don't need that one yet. The endoscopy showed Helicobacter pylori. That's the one. I knew I'd forget the name when it came to it. H. pylori, it's much easier to remember. It is the most horrible infection you can have. Absolutely unbearable pain. I had great problems getting onto the hospital bed. Getting off of the hospital bed was a nightmare. Anyway, they did those. What else did it show? Terrible, terrible wind, gas if you're American, in the stomach. And diverticulosis. diverticulosis is pockets that form in the colon, usually caused by constipation. And that I realized was caused from medication I was on for the blood pressure. No, the other thing, cholesterol. So I have eventually decided it's not worth taking it. My blood pressure that fluctuates, my high cholesterol, it's hereditary. There's nothing I can eat that makes it any different. In the days when I exercised every day, didn't make any difference. And I consulted with my doctor on this. What is the point of making yourself ill through medication? You've got to try and work that bit out for yourself. Anyway, the diverticulosis, I'm told, might go of its own accord. I'm just telling you this so you can figure out you've got symptoms and nobody knows what's causing it. It may have been better if I'd have investigated that further, but nobody could think of anything except, well, we think the severe pain is caused by the H. pylori. So if we can get rid of the H. pylori, you might get rid of all the pain. That required 2 different forms of antibiotics, one of which made me incredibly ill. It made the pain worse. I sent Les a message one night about 3 o'clock in the morning because I thought he was awake because he'd left his phone on. He hadn't put it onto airplane mode as he normally would. And he thought I was really ill and in need of someone and nobody could hear me. So that didn't help him. I was almost in tears from that. Anyway, I was so happy to come back to my own house. And I was supposed to have gone to a lovely do that was being organised by my good friends from the Mercy Centre, Liz and Len. And I was so unwell, I had to say, I'm sorry, I can't come. That was on a Saturday. I had stupidly gone into the swimming pool in the morning where we live. Les had come in with me, struggled to get in. He couldn't get me out. The British guys might remember Benny Hill and on the lady's bottom, pushing her up. And Les tried that. And anyway, he got me out. And by Sunday morning, I was in tears with pain. Poor Les didn't know what to do. So off we went to the hospital. You all know I'm sure you all know which one. And I saw an orthopedic doctor who gave me a morphine injection for the pain. I think he did an X-ray first. And he told me that I had 2 fractured discs. I knew I had one. I'd had one for years that had obviously repaired itself. Didn't know I had 2. I think at that point, Les, it was 2, not 3. And the morphine injection made me literally vomit. My bad luck. Pain didn't get any better, and the doctor had said, if you don't get better, come back and see me, and we'll do an MRI. Oh, I got those in the wrong order, didn't I? Never mind. I looked over it about 6 times. So back we trotted to the hospital. This would have been in May. I saw another orthopedic doctor. He did an MRI. I never actually received the MRI results. I just know what the doctor told me. Bear in mind, I was in so much pain, and because I couldn't sleep properly, I would sleep at odd times. I'd get up for breakfast. Within an hour, I'd be back in bed. Get up for lunch. Within an hour, I'd be back in bed. Les was tearing out the hair. That's why Les is bald. Got that bit right, didn't I, dear? The results then showed that I had 4, not 3, fractured discs. So from March to May, I had 2 more fractured discs. And we just thought it was all to do with the back problem. We didn't think about it being anything else. I also saw, what's the stomach doctor? Gastrologist. Thank you. I knew gastrologist was wrong. I knew someone would correct me. Mr. Husband, I thought it was going to be you, but you're forgiven. So I saw this gastroenterologist, and she said, well, having seen the results of your MRI, there's nothing, not MRI, the colonoscopy and endoscopy. It's obviously nothing that we need to worry about. I will give you some medication. Didn't work. Bear in mind, I never saw the written report. Pain wasn't getting any better. I had what we would call a GP who saw me fairly regularly. He happens to be a friend of a friend, so he considered me a friend. And he did various blood tests, and he consulted with a family member who's a doctor in Bangkok, who consulted with all her learned colleagues. Nobody could figure out what was wrong. They did blood tests. They knew the anemia that I had, that had always been at 1, even when we lived in England. And again, I didn't know, because in England, if the results of your blood tests show that your anemia is at 1, don't ask me what it means. I'm not medically trained. Didn't even warrant telling me about it. And it was increasing. I don't remember what it was increasing to. But we got to, oh yes, lovely June. I developed vertigo. Anybody ever had vertigo? Oh, isn't it awful? The number of times I screamed out to Les because I thought I was going to collapse. When you're very, very drunk and the whole room is turning on you, and the ceiling comes down to the floor, or did the floor go up to the ceiling? I don't remember which way round it was, but it did, and I couldn't walk. Try sitting on the toilet and knowing you need to get up and move somewhere, and I had to scream, Les, Les, and he's thinking, oh God, what's she done now? Anyway, we phoned who recommended some medication and basically said, be careful, lay down, if you're not better, come back and see me tomorrow. Tomorrow I had an appointment to see my friend who does the regular therapeutic massage for me for the back problem. She was on holiday, so her locum saw me. Before I saw her, Dr. Patrick gave me my drip of chelation that he was trying to see if it would make me feel better. And I discussed with him the fact that I had this funny rash in my groin. We forgot about that. We did the massage. He came in to do the ultrasound that the masseuse was not able to do. Completely forgetting this business with the rash. And when she turned me over to massage the front of me, she massaged in the groin. Me without thinking that I have a rash. And no, I wasn't thinking it was an STD. I wasn't worried about that. The next day, I'd been in terrible pain that night. The rash was spreading. Les and I looked at each other, and we phoned Dr. Patrick, who said, come and see me, took one look at it and said, shingles. Who's had shingles? Okay. You can get it in the most awkward places. My very good friend had it in her eye. I can't imagine the pain she was in. For me, it was 10 days of agony, and it spread from my waist into the groin and around to my spine. So I couldn't sleep. However I tried to sleep, I was in agony. Again, I was given medication for it. We never thought of anything else. By August, nothing had changed. Perhaps the pain wasn't quite so severe, but I still had this terrible backache. I still had this terrible stomachache. I was still burping like crazy. Thanks, Ren. And I said to Dr. Patrick, have you seen my MRI results? Well, this was at Shorecell, and the place was turned over with them looking for my MRI results. Les turned our house inside out, upside down, couldn't find the MRI results. I emailed the hospital. Nothing. But then Patrick looked again at my latest blood results. The blood results showed that the anemia was at 7.9. Now, we also knew that I had very little white blood cells left in my system. This meant that my immune system was very, very low. And he said to me, you need to see a hematologist. And I said, oh, well, Les is doing this tomorrow and I'm doing that the next day. I'll go on Monday. Is that okay? And he said, no.
How many times do I have to tell people to switch their phones off or to vibrate?
So I went to the hospital the next day to see the hematologist. And I'd been given a letter by Dr. Patrick, so I could bypass seeing just the ordinary GP and go straight to the hematologist. Being ignorant of these things, I then found myself being wheeled to the oncology centre. And Les and I looked at each other, and the hematologist looked at this report that said about the tiredness, and I said to her, I'm also concerned because one of my brothers died from multiple myeloma. She said, do you have insurance? Because I'd like to admit you. I need to do blood transfusions and tests. So I was admitted immediately. And at that time, I don't know if it's still the same, but at that time, if Les, for the few of you that might not know, he's my husband. If he'd have wanted to stay with me, he would also have had this COVID test. So I said to him, no, I'm okay to be on my own, don't worry. And he was okay with that. So I was admitted. I was in hospital 3 days. I had 2 blood transfusions, and she did all these tests. And come back in a week's time, and we'll give you the results. And the results was I had 80% cancer in the red blood cells. As I said, I'm not medically trained, but I'm like, oops, that's very severe. This doesn't sound good at all. And she said to me, we need to know exactly where the cancer is in case it spreads somewhere. You need a PET scan. You can't have a PET scan in Pattaya. You have to go to Bangkok. I think there are 3 hospitals that do a PET scan. Insurance wouldn't cover it. It's outpatient treatment. And it's 60,000 baht for a PET scan. Off I went to Bangkok. Les wanted to stay home. I'm fortunate I can stay with my son who lives in Bangkok. We went to see the oncologist in a hospital in Bangkok. This was on the 29th of August. And she said, oh, sorry, the one thing I'd forgotten. At this point, before we went up to see her, we had to get all the paperwork from the hospital in Pattaya to take with to Bangkok. I had to sign like 1,000 different forms, yet again, having given permission for all my things, all the hematology reports, to be shown to another doctor. I had to give written permission. I had to do it all over again to get any of the reports sent to me. They sent me the MRI, and when I looked at the report, it noted a hematological problem. That was done in May. Nobody had mentioned a hematological problem in May. And this oncologist said to me, oh, I can see from all the reports, you've definitely got multiple myeloma. She said, you need therapy. If you couldn't hear what I said, you weren't supposed to hear it and couldn't make out what was being said. My son was with me, and we looked at each other, and we said, pardon? And she said, well, repeat. And we said, sorry, doctor, we really can't understand what you're saying. Do you mean chemotherapy? Yes, she said. And I have to say, throughout the whole conversation, we could hardly understand what this doctor was saying. We'd been recommended to her as the top oncologist at the hospital. We know somebody who's the director at one of the hospitals. And we said, what other treatment? Well, we know you need steroids. We don't know what else you're going to need. You need treatments. So we had no idea how many treatments it was going to be. And I asked the cost, and she had no idea. Would you like to start treatment? You can start tomorrow. And I said, well, without knowing the cost, no. I knew full well I was going to see a doctor in alternative medicine the next day. When we got the quote the next day, it was 506,000 baht plus, and we don't know what other treatments are needed. That's per session. Per session. I don't know if my insurance would have covered, because it's outpatient treatment. I didn't want chemotherapy. I've seen too many people have chemotherapy, and it's made them ill. I think we've all heard the stories. Some people it doesn't affect at all. Some people it does. Another of my brothers who had a different form of cancer, he had chemotherapy, and they reckon it was the chemotherapy that killed him. Okay, so I went to see this alternative doctor on the 30th of September. The 30th of August, actually. And he recommended a course of treatment. I cannot tell you what the charges for that are, because my sons, two of my sons, are paying for it. Not were, are. I had also been told by the second oncologist, without treatment, I would have been dead within 5 months. So here I am, I'm alive, kicking, and back to my old self. Anyway, I feel back to my old self. And so my treatments commenced. I decided I would go with the alternative treatments. And Dr. Michael, God bless the man, literally, and I'm not a religious person, started the treatments immediately. I liked the fact that, despite the fact that he's German and therefore English isn't his mother tongue, the same as the doctor in the hospital, for whom it wasn't mother tongue, I could understand everything he said to me. He is available anytime I want to talk to him. I can message him anytime. I have his number on WhatsApp. Most days when I go into the clinic, it's a case of, how are you? Any side effects? Are you feeling ill? And he tailored the treatment for me. And I've watched him with other people, or I've heard from other people at the clinic. He does this for everyone. I can't sing his praises too high. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here now. My treatment commenced with the strengthening treatments. This was all by drip and a hypothermia machine. And also, because of the back problem, I was having a machine that's laser and magnets. He called in an orthopedic doctor, whom he often calls into the clinic. Dr. Werner, again, fantastic. He did a treatment on me, different to anything I'd had. It basically felt as though he was running his hands on my spine. He touched various points on my spine, and you could hear the clicks and the goodness knows what. And the severe back pain I had went. He also used acupuncture, and these pins were in me for about 5 days. I couldn't feel them being put in my spine or round my spine. And I twiddled them every so often. If I felt a pain, I gave a twiddle to them. They are the tiniest needles I've ever seen. If you've ever had acupuncture, the needles are normally fairly long. These needles are so short, they're not even that length. They're very small, probably about the size of a nail, a little bit shorter maybe. As I said, a Japanese invention. I haven't got that severe backache anymore. I'm not in agony. I can sleep at night and turn over. Wonderful. Came to October, and I was given CAR T cell therapy. This therapy is approved by the US FDA and the British FDA. The British one will give treatment if you are under 25 years of age. I'm a little bit older than 25. Multiply it by 3 and you're spot on. But I had this treatment. Now, you'll see there's a booklet in this to follow this. It's very long. We're on page 1. The rest of it mostly goes on to 77 pages. If you're interested, come and see me after the meeting and I can forward it to you. There's an awful lot of information in it. Use it for whatever you want. The treatment I received in September to strengthen me is also preventative. Now bear in mind, when I looked this doctor up on the internet, they deal in anti-aging. I'm not medically trained. I thought, ooh, I'll look even more young and beautiful. I didn't realize it's anti-aging for your cells. We all know, I think, that our cells degenerate. And the idea is to strengthen all your cells and your immunity system and to get your blood circulation going properly. Because as we age, circulation gets worse and your blood cells get worse, etc., etc., etc. So I started on this course. Bear in mind, to cure me, and I'm now in remission. Okay, 2 of my sons having preventative treatment. Of course, obviously, we know that there's cancer in the family. My parents, my 2 brothers, died of it. Other members of the family have died of it. And lo and behold, I've got it. My illness started with my 3rd COVID booster vaccination with Pfizer. It has now been documented, and a lot of it has only been seen so far by the medical people. But lots of people have been very ill since they've had their vaccination. Pfizer and Moderna seem to have caused a lot more problems. One of the ladies I've become friendly with in the clinic, 5 years older than me, has had exactly the same story. She didn't have the vertigo, but she had the shingles. She has multiple myeloma. I know of another doctor, again in Bangkok, and he has said he's treated hundreds, if not thousands of patients where he's based in Hong Kong. They've had various coronavirus jabs. They have all been very ill one way or another. I'm not going to go into all that, but I'm not having any more COVID vaccinations. If I want to travel and they tell me I have to have a COVID vaccination, I will not go to that country because I am convinced that it made me very ill. Would I have got cancer otherwise? I really don't know. If my son hadn't have known of this anti-aging doctor, would I be in remission now? I don't know. But a lot of you will have seen me when I was here in July or whenever it was. I couldn't walk. I couldn't be without a stick. When I went to bed at night, I had to have the stick at the side of my bed because I couldn't get out of bed without the aid of a stick. Even when I had the blood transfusions in the hospital, I had to have the stick because I was frightened of falling. I had many dizzy spells and they were worried I'd fall. So I'm having the treatment and it's curcumin, and I was having 1,000 milligrams. I had that from the 30th of August I went to the doctor. So from then until the 22nd of December, every day except Sunday, I had 1,000 milligrams of curcumin. I had the NLD. That was daily. I had vitamin C. The curcumin, the vitamin C are all used to reduce inflammation. By reducing the inflammation, I think that speaks to itself for everyone. I also had amino acids. That's to make all the blood cells better. I have B12 and B6 and B9. If you're taking B12, you need B9 as well. You need them intravenously. If you have the tablets, they have very little effect. The oncologist has told me that any of these supplements that we take orally, you've only got a 5% chance of them working. When you have it as a drip, it's 100%. It's going straight into you. I also periodically have to have D3 because my immune system is weakened. To my knowledge, I've not had COVID, and he said everyone by now has had COVID because quite often you're asymptomatic. A friend of a friend who has at last agreed to come to the hospital, to the clinic where I'm attending treatment, his pancreatic cancer, after 2 years, it has metastasized. So it's gone into his liver. His wife, over the Christmas period, was very ill with COVID. She's half his age. He was asymptomatic. He didn't have the bad symptoms of COVID. Now, our belief, his, mine, and hers, it's because of all the preventative treatments that he's been having. She obviously isn't having them. And he didn't get the bad symptoms, and yet they're all telling us that people who've got underlying health issues are the ones who are going to possibly be killed off by COVID. Is it worth having the treatment? For me, 100%, because I probably wouldn't be here now. Would I have wanted chemotherapy? 506,000 plus, and all the sickness that goes with it. The drips I've been having and the CAR T cell therapy. CAR T cell therapy, they draw 50 ml of your blood and they take it to a lab, send it to a lab, and they doctor it. They take out the T cells. It's all in the booklet that comes next. You can see how many pages it goes through. And the NKT cells. I haven't quite got my head around that, but to my mind, that's basically telling you it's particularly, CAR T-cell therapy is particularly good for my type of cancer. The doctor at the clinic tailors it to whatever you've got. Okay, it goes on. I'm just going to give you a brief look at this. Now, hypothermia. I tried to get a picture of this to show you it's somewhere buried in all of this. It's a machine, it's a hammock on a metal frame, the best way I can describe it. Oh, the back, sorry. You said computer, I was thinking of television. Oh, okay. This is the underneath of the hypothermia machine. You've got all these lights that are very, very bright, and they've got this netting. To me, it looks just like a hammock. Okay. The one good thing you might say is that you have to strip off all your clothes to get on the machine. But they do give you a modesty thingy, a little pair of netting pants. That's Dr. Michael, probably taken about 30 years ago, God bless him. The machine looks nothing like that now. And a bra for the ladies. Getting on the machine if you are ill is very difficult. They're very good, the staff at the clinic are very good at helping you. They are genuinely very friendly. Dr. Michael has told me that he did have one patient, one man, who literally was not able to get up 2 steps that are probably a bit steeper than this, and they've got a rail you can grab onto one side. But the nurses always help me on it, except the last week or two. I was forgetting to wait for them to help me onto the machine. I can get myself on. The bad thing about it is that you sweat as much, if not more, than when you're in a sauna. It has many benefits. If you are depressed, it helps rid you of the depression. It helps your blood circulation. It helps your aches and pains. It helps if you've got an awful cold or cough or anything else like that. You sweat it all out, and I find that my head is soaking wet up to about that level all the way around. And you start it off, you only have it at 70% volume, and then they jack it up to 100. Starting off at 45 minutes on the machine, an hour. They've asked me to do longer. I'm having daily treatment. An hour is enough. I take whatever music I like to listen to. Sometimes I sing along. Sometimes I fall asleep. You have a rest afterwards. And then I have the drips. I have been in the clinic for up to 6 hours per day. It's worked for me. I don't know how well. What's the name's up quite well. So, okay, the T cells were modified, and within 5 days, they were ready to be put back into me. Oh, that's right. Chimeric antigen receptor. As I said, they doctor your blood and they put it back into you. It was 12 weekly treatments. Are there any side effects? Like every form of medication, side effects are different for everyone. I found the first couple of treatments, I had diarrhea to some extent. I've had the occasional slight headache. Nothing that made me scream out, I don't want any more. If you look it up on the internet, they'll tell you that you need to be hospitalized when you have CAR T-cell therapy treatment in case it's got a bad effect on you. Rubbish. I was able to get up and walk straight afterwards. It's just a drip going into my arm. I would say the most unpleasant thing is having to have the drip put into my arm every day. And being elderly, yes, sometimes they have a problem getting the drip in, but the hospital had the same problem. It's nothing that one can't tolerate. On some occasions, I found I was nauseous, but it had gone by the time the drip was finished. I found that I had to have the drip going into me very slowly. This was just me. My sons could both do the drips and they'd be finished in an hour and a half. Me, sometimes 2.5, 3 hours. And it can vary from day to day. On 2 occasions, I can remember not feeling well. I really felt nauseous. I was dizzy. Do I need a bowl in case I'm literally going to vomit? Rang the bell. The nurse came in, took my temperature, took my blood pressure, stayed with me, made sure the drip was going in slower. That wasn't the CAR T-cell therapy. This was the preventative, ordinary curcumin and NLD drip. What I'm trying to stress here is that I found the clinic cared about me. When my blood pressure was slightly elevated on one occasion, the nurse stayed with me until the blood pressure was back to normal. I can't speak highly enough for the care that I received while I was there. And I watched the same care being given to other patients in the clinic. They'll go out and get food for you, not a problem. Who wants to be having chemotherapy? No, thank you very much. As I said, I continued this treatment, and you can see it does go on. And you can see we've all got the T cells, and they have to be able to alter those to get rid of the cancer. Some of the side effects, think about it. They are killing off the CAR T-cell therapy, killed off the cancer that was in 80% of my blood cells. That has to come out of the body somehow. So the fact that I had very mild symptoms, and I really do stress very mild symptoms. I've known people have the most awful symptoms from chemotherapy, the problems with their skin, the problems with nausea, the problems of losing your hair. I had none of that. I would think the prices are probably comparable. What can you say about saving your life? Why do we need to modify the cells? If you don't modify the T cells, the cancer is going to grow. They have to get rid of it somehow. But as I said, watching people having just the drips, if they catch the cancer when it's very young, or better still, if you have the treatment before you're ill, it helps for so many things. I can't believe that this all helped with this terrible, terrible backache. Within the first week of having the drips, I could walk round the supermarket again. I couldn't do that before. I am now walking faster than Les. And he's complained for years as to what he hasn't complained, But when we go to a supermarket, he'll walk about 2 aisles ahead of me. It really has improved me to that extent. I've never been able to go up these steps. They were always far too daunting for me, far too high. I can make it now. I feel I've been given a new lease of life, and I wanted to be able to talk to all of you to let you know there is something you can do about it. If you've got aches and pains, go and make an appointment to go and see Dr. Michael. I know it's in Bangkok. I know it's difficult. I do know he did say there are nurses, or he does have a nurse who's available to come to your home to administer the drips. Maybe he charges a lot extra. I don't know. Don't be put off by prices. Speak to him or speak to somebody at the clinic. They'll get him to call you back. That tells you how they modify it. So you see, they have to separate your blood, and they put a virus into the T cell, inject it back into you, and it kills off the cancer. With blood cancer, you cannot remove somebody's blood to kill it off. You are put into remission. I was in stage 4. If you recover from stage 4, I think you're very lucky. We just couldn't believe that I'd been given a second lease of life. I can't tell you how much I think of this. Okay, so the T cells have protein receptors. They lock onto the diseased cell. You've got to kill it off. You've got to get rid of the disease. That's why I can only say I'm in remission. Am I cured? Time will tell, folks. If it never reoccurs again, there we are. That's your walking miracle as far as I'm concerned. Find the money to have the treatment. At the moment, a lot of it isn't covered by the insurance companies. I don't know whether the insurance policy that individuals hold will cover perhaps the CAR T-cell therapy. Certainly if you've got a UK insurance or an American insurance, if you need anything like that, speak to them. The preventative ones, isn't it sad that we can't have preventative treatment covered? Think how many millions of pounds, dollars, baht would be saved by being able to have preventative treatments. I mean, I know 2 people having the preventative treatment, and they both look amazingly young. One is a guy of 78 years old. He has preventative treatment twice a week. He smokes cigars about 6 per day. He drinks approximately 2 bottles of wine per day. He doesn't go to bed until like 3 o'clock in the morning. You'd never believe that this man is 78 years old. 78. He looks amazingly young. He is a Muslim. He has 4 wives. He took the 4th one because he divorced one of the others. He doesn't know me well enough to know my religion, although I don't practice it. But he said, the one I divorced was Jewish. I've been married to a Roman Catholic girl, a Muslim girl, and the other one is C of E. Yes, he's a character. but he looks young, and he's got... I couldn't stay up every night until 3 o'clock in the morning, but I did go to his Christmas party, and I had a microphone thrust at me, and they didn't know that by giving me a microphone, it wouldn't faze me at all. Les wished he'd been there to listen to me singing karaoke, don't you, Les? Oh, you can't hear? Should I talk a bit louder, dear? Oh, I normally clear the room. Thank you for that vote of confidence. And I was dancing. I haven't been able to dance for about 5 years. I used to love going to Sandbar and dancing. You remember seeing me there, Ren. I'm sure we've had a dance more than once or twice. I just wasn't able to do it. Now I can. And I love to dance, and I love to sing. Has it been worth the discomfort of the drips, etc.? Has it been worth my sons paying that money for me? Without a doubt. And as I said, I want you all to know about it. I want you all to realise that this book, okay, it's available to any of you. It's not a book as such. Email me and I'll send the book to you, and you can go through all this at your leisure. Incidentally, I have to thank Brad at the back there in the turquoise t-shirt, because Brad put this all on for me, gave me a few ideas of what should go in the PowerPoint presentation. And then we put the whole book on there because I wasn't sure how much of it I was really going to need. I was going to do a quick 10, 15 minutes because I wanted you all to know that this treatment is available. Whatever aches and pains you've got, speak to the man. Speak to the doctor. As I said, he's got an orthopedic doctor whom he can call on at any time. Dr. Werner is a top, can't think of the word I want now. He's a top teacher at one of the hospitals in Bangkok for orthopedics. A senior in this, I don't mean senior by old, I mean a senior position in orthopedics. So he's got the people to call on if he needs somebody else. The success rate for treating multiple myeloma with chemotherapy, and it's also the success rate for most forms of cancer, is 5%. CAR T cell therapy, they have 100% success. What treatment should I have chosen? Chemotherapy or CAR T cell therapy? It's not brain science to decide what you're going to have. It's all your own blood cell. It's your own blood that's taken. You're not going to have anybody else's blood pumped back into you. I was the only one at the clinic receiving this particular cell, so they knew the CAR T cell therapies were all mine and not anybody else's. And if there's any form of doubt, I mean, they'll show you what they're injecting into you. The doctor has, should I say the clinic, has a farm up somewhere, wherever the farm might be. The curcumin, which comes from, where does it come from, Les? Turmeric, isn't it? They grow their own turmeric organically. They harvest it and they make the curcumin that they use on the premises. The same with all the other things that they use. What better can you have? The doctor seems very up to date with everything. He's been an oncologist for over 30 years. And in the, I can't remember what date, in 19 something or other, I can't remember whether he said 75 or 85, autopsies on people who died in old people's homes. They all had cancer present, but most of them didn't die of cancer. So something, and they don't quite know what, something in some people activates the cancer. All I can say is the sooner we know what's wrong with us, the sooner it can be treated successfully. Oh, this is all about the NKT cells. I'd missed that bit, that it's a natural killer. But I suppose, yeah. We all know we're dying. But one thing the doctor has told me is that our bodies are capable of living until we are 140 years old. Yep, you're going for it, Barry. I'm beside you there. I'm beside you. If we can live to be 140, let's be sensible. If everyone in this room can live to be 100 and be healthy with it, wouldn't that be wonderful? I mean, I know we've got quite a few members over the age of 80. We've got even more if we say members over the age of 70, or even visitors over the age of 70. Wouldn't it be great to get rid of all the problems we've got? Now, I also suffer from food intolerances, and it's been driving me mad for years. Les has a list of things that he's not allowed to put in food for me. When we go out to a restaurant, I have to choose very carefully. I was due to go and see a doctor who would rid me of these food intolerances. I'm convinced they'd work because my oldest son, with whom I'm staying in Bangkok, he had 10 food intolerances. And Dr. Gary, God bless him, got rid of all 10 of them. His symptoms were far more severe than mine. He had an immediate effect from them. And all he could do previously was refrain from coffee, cheese, bread, wheat. I've forgotten what the other ones were. My list is much longer than his. Now, the oncologist, Dr. Michael, has said to me, you don't need treatment with Dr. Gary, I know him. All the treatments you're having with me will get rid of them. And I thought, no, it hasn't worked. But you know, I'm having suspicions at the moment that my intolerances aren't like they were. They seem to be better. I'm sure there are many of you here who think, oh, I can't eat so-and-so, and I can't eat so-and-so. I can give you a list of 25 things that I was told I can't eat. And I've realized I have been eating them, and I haven't felt as ill as I was. I think once since I've been home in the past, how long have I been back? A week. I haven't said, oh, I feel so nauseous. What on earth have I eaten? I have been careful a lot of the time when I've eaten out. But sometimes I can't help it. If you go to a restaurant, you can't turn around and say to them, well, have you got onions, garlic, chili, black pepper, lemon juice, lime juice, orange juice? etc., 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 in any of these foods. I know I must have eaten them. I haven't had the problems I've had before. Wow. Now, I was going back to have treatment with Dr. Gary. But Dr. Gary, the food intolerance man, and Dr. Michael both offer alternative medicine. I can't have my treatment with Dr. Gary. I couldn't arrange my treatment with him because the clinic in which he has his machine, it's only a machine, was raided. It's alternative medicine. And obviously at some point a disgruntled client, not necessarily of his, because he operates within a clinic. It was raided. I don't know what's happened, but I received a message on Saturday night to say, oh, yep, doctor can treat you, but you need to come up for treatment on Tuesday. You need to come up on Tuesday for treatment on Wednesday. And I'm like, you're having a laugh. My friend has arranged a luncheon for me on Tuesday. I'm giving this talk at the expats on Wednesday. Brad has spent hours, or at least it would have been hours for me, on the PowerPoint presentation. No, I'm not coming up. Okay, I was told, you can't see Dr. Gary for another 2 or 3 months. And I said, okay, I'll have to live with it. But now I'm beginning to think, in 2 or 3 months' time, will the food intolerances have gone? All through having these drips that are going to make me healthy. And as I said, this booklet goes on. I don't know about the ultrasound. I haven't had ultrasound. Definitely not had that. Oh, it's similar to an ultrasound checkup. No, they've definitely not used that one on me. The thermal effect, to me, this is all more about the hypothermia. It is a very hot temperature that they run it at. And you can see they treat all different types of cancer. And there's a variety of things that they're going to use for it. This is the local hypothermia. It's just a small, it's a big machine with something about this size, with a big circle on one end that they place over the areas. A friend of mine is having that treatment, and he said it's helping to reduce the pain of his liver cancer. Well, I have chemotherapy. He said he finds the biggest problem, he gets very tired. And I know I do. I'll sometimes say, I've really got to have a sleep. But hang on a minute, I'm 75. How long have I been having a sleep in the middle of the day? How many of you find you have to have a sleep in the middle of the day? Wow, if you don't, I think you're very lucky. But if you need a sleep, have a sleep. The internet says that while I've been having chemotherapy and for some weeks after, I shouldn't be driving a car. Why? I feel perfectly capable of driving the car. So I checked with the doctor and he laughed. He said, if you don't feel well, don't drive. He said, if you're hungover, definitely don't drive. He said, not because you've had CAR T-cell therapy, but because you're over 65 years of age. If you don't feel too good, don't drive. That's common sense for anyone. As I said, this just goes on, pages and pages of it. but it tells you about all the different things. So I think it's quite useful if any of you have any of these problems. As I said, I'll email it to you and you pick out the bits that are effective for you. I was actually sent it WhatsApp, so that's the easiest way for me to get it to you. Or I can probably send them the email that you sent me, Brad. Okay, we'll ask Daryl to put the link in the newsletter. That makes perfect sense. Oh, Daryl, if we send you a link to put in the newsletter. You can't hear me? Oh, no, sorry. I'm saying, I thought Les was saying he can't hear me. I'm very good at raising my voice. Les, that's a funny look on your face. Does he? Oh, in 21 years I hadn't noticed it. 21, 22? 22. Yeah. Oh, I got it right the second time. Do you know what doctor? Local hypothermia. They don't use the local hypothermia a lot. Oh, they tend to use this one. That's the funny machine. I mean, I have to say, I know these machines cost a fortune. That's the whole body one. That's the one I've been having. And that seems to work for curing everything. I have to say, when I come off of the hypothermia machine, which is the most difficult thing to do, because you're down in a dip on this hammock thing, and you've got to get out of it. It used to take 2 of them to get me off. Now I can do it with 1 person. I thought we had somewhere a picture of the hypothermia machine. That's not... That looks like a repeat of it, Brad. You said... Yeah. Okay, that's what it does. Increase the perfusion in organs and tissues. I wish it was all in English that I understood. But yes, it works for inflammation. It helps muscle tone. Okay, I agree vaguely with all of those things. It helps absolutely for everything. I have no idea what that one is. I haven't had that. Photodynamic. Time? Yeah, I think we ran out of time. Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you.
There's about another 60 slides to go or something. So, while we're waiting for this last slide, I am in awe of this woman. Apart from anything else, coming and giving this talk is just amazing. Huge round of applause for this amazing woman.
Thank you.
Judith, Les wants the microphone. Can I give it to him?
Oh, I suppose so. Out of the kindness of my heart, and of course I love him. Go on.
Excuse me for not standing up, because I have slight problems. Just 2 points. One, it's a standing joke about Judith singing. It's because she's actually tone deaf. So you can imagine it. It clears the room. The other thing is, I noticed when they were talking about the CAR T cells, they were saying they find the cancer cells. Actually, that's not the correct word to use. They actually go hunting for the cancer cells and attach themselves to them.
Thanks. That reminds me, I posted a meme on Facebook and it said, this old guy was sitting on the veranda and he said, when my wife is singing, I sit on the veranda so that the neighbours realise that I'm not hitting her.
Yeah, I thought of Les when I saw that one. Yes, yes. And yet they invited me back to sing at the party I was at. Okay, so the difference in the programs, the doctor will discuss it with you. Is this the one? Is this the one that's got the prices? Yeah, let's jump to the prices. This is the biggest problem. But how much do you put on your health and how much do you put on your life? I love my children and my children love me. And I thank them very much for coming up with the money to pay for my treatment. It's so important though. I've had the first one, the second one, the third one, the maintenance. Oh, resveratrol. Okay. I was told by the doctor to avoid alcohol, but drink 1 red glass of wine per day. Now, as it so happens, I don't like wine. I've tried very, very hard on occasions to have some red wine. I can't cope with it. So for them to give me a drip with the resveratrol in it is fantastic. It's a drug found naturally in grapes, and red grapes, and it's in the red grapes when they produce the wine. Apparently it has loads of good things, and I'm not going to read that lot all out to you, but it's available. As we said, we'll let you have the link so you can see all this. Pick out the bits that are of particular interest to you at a particular time. It's amazing what things we can have naturally. I think that's really about the most important things that we need to show you. There we are, vitamin C. We've all known that these things are of great benefit to us. Oh, all the benefits of it. Have a look at it online. I'm not going to spend ages looking at it. I think now is the time really to open it up for questions. No questions?
Hi, thanks. Very interesting talk, but you sort of indicated you thought your cancer came from the COVID boosters. I was wondering when you got your boosters, because I've had 3 COVID boosters, and my last one was last September. That's when I first became eligible in the United States.
I had my booster I had the bladder infection first in January. In February, I had my Pfizer booster. I'd had Astra previously. Okay? So in February, within 2 weeks, I was in agony. And I also noticed I became very tired, and the tiredness got worse. And the lady in the clinic, my age, with exactly the same problems as me, had exactly the same thing. My 3 sons had the boosters. My oldest son, when he had the first one, the Astra, he became ill. He lost 30% of his hearing, and he suffered from some mini strokes. That was, the first one, how long ago could that have been? A year, maybe longer? Okay, I'm not going to argue with that. I'm now talking about Spencer having his. He had his about a year ago. He still has 30% hearing loss. He has yet he's seen Dr. Gary once to help with the hearing problem. He's just been too busy to go back, and I've told him he's an idiot. I don't mince my words, especially with my family. You are family.
Hi, Judith. Congratulations.
Thank you very
wonderful.
much.
And Georgina says hi. I wanted to ask you, my question is, you showed the prices for therapy. Was that the preventative therapy that you showed the prices for?
Yes. CAR T-cell therapy is horrendously expensive, but CAR T-cell therapy is mainly beneficial when you've got multiple myeloma, from what I understand. And as my son said, we're saving your life, Mum. Well, no, Dr. Gary is saving your life. Dr. Michael is saving your life, Mum. You've got to go and have it. It's all very expensive. But the preventative one, I believe if you go twice in 1 week for the preventative, maybe once a fortnight, maybe once a month. It depends on the individual when you have the consultation with the doctor. It depends how he thinks it's going to work for you.
Judith, welcome back.
Thanks, Roger.
You said that money should be no object, but with the numbers that you're showing me here, I don't have the money. What do you do if you don't have the money? Just die?
At the moment, I don't know the alternative. It's very, very sad. I mean, Les and I wouldn't have the money. We just wouldn't have it. Would your insurance company pay for it? Do you have outpatient treatment?
Well, they'll pay for it, but I'm not sure about the preventative. Just as you suggested, it's amazing that they're not doing preventative.
I know.
To avoid the disease that they're going to have to pay for.
Have you got a condition that's causing you a problem? Have you got an ache in your little finger on the right-hand side? That's right, I've got the right. That's the only thing I can think of. I honestly don't know. It's very, very sad that this treatment exists. And I would think Big Pharma is stopping us all benefiting from it to the extent we should be able to. Ren?
We got Richard.
Over here, Ren.
We have Richard here.
Hi, Judith.
Hi, Richard.
I think we're all happy to have you back.
Thanks,
and
Richard.
Looking so good. The one thing that you haven't put on the screen are the names and information about the doctors who had treated you, so we could get a hold of them.
It's done purposely. We took them off of the screen because of this alternative medicine doctor whose clinic, as I said, Dr. Gary's machine is in a clinic that does alternative medication, and they were raided. So we didn't want it to go up on the screen on YouTube. If you would like any of the contact details, please just let me know and I will willingly give them to you. I asked the doctor for some cards. He doesn't do cards. He wanted me to give people his phone number and preferably put him on your WhatsApp and contact him that way. Sorry to have to do it like that.
So my question is, are we going to see more of you, or are you back off to Bangkok?
I have to go back to Bangkok because I have had the cancer. I need to carry on having preventative treatment. It won't be as often as every week that I have to have it, every day rather, but I will be going back to Bangkok. I might only spend 1 week up there and then come back here for a week. Depends on many other factors. But I'm certainly not in a position to go back to being treasurer, and this is my gripe. Somebody here must be capable of being treasurer and preferably filling out the financial report, which is basically filling in an Excel sheet, because the two people who have been understudying me are unable to pick up how to do the database, for instance. And if somebody doesn't come forward to do it, I'm not going to be here every single week for the rest of my life. I know I'm not going to do it because I know I'm going to have treatment and be up in Bangkok maybe 1 week in 2, maybe 1 week in 4. If somebody doesn't come forward to do it, we'll have nobody to make the membership cards, nobody to do the financial report, and the club will cease to exist. At the moment, I'm still trying, in the little time I've been here, to do the financial report. I've got as far as entering stuff for November. As I said, if somebody doesn't come forward to help, and with other jobs on the board, we can't exist. Great shame.
Judith, you're going to be here till you're 140, so you still got a couple of years in the tank.
Okay, George, just not every week. Glass of red wine a day, everybody. Wait for the microphone, please.
Is it possible to put your phone number and Dr. Michael's phone number on the screen?
No. My phone number I don't mind you having, but I don't want anything to go onto social media.
Right. Well,
because of this raid that happened. I don't know whether anybody was imprisoned. I know Dr. Gary wasn't, but I don't know whether the other people working in the clinic, bear in mind he rents the place, Dr. Michael is the food intolerance doctor, whether the other people who have facilities in this clinic, I don't know whether they were imprisoned, I don't know whether they were fined.
Well, your speech has been wonderful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And I presume that goes from everyone.
Thank you.
Indeed.
Is it possible, I have to go now, I've got an appointment, is it possible to get your phone number somehow now before I go?
Well, Judith's just finishing up now, so if you sit down, she'll get off the thing and she'll come and see you, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Well, Judith, just stand up. Give me this. George, come and get a microphone.
What do you want me to do? Carry her down?
Shut up. That's what I'm Now, I'm going to do this on behalf of everybody here, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, this is the...
Okay.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Judith. Thank you for having the courage to do this. And it's a tribute to how well she feels that she trusted herself to come and give this long talk, etc. So, all right. Go and sort that guy over there. Come over and get Judith's phone number, okay? So, just various things now. Who has had shingles here? Shingles? Incredibly painful. And it's because you have had the chickenpox when you were young and the virus stays in your system gets weaker, the chickenpox then manifests as shingles.